Hey everyone. So I took a detour on a road trip and we're in Sarasota, Florida to see a TV station that an amazing, fascinating, horrible event took place back in 1974. And I wanted to see the TV station where the anchor Christine Chubbuck took her own life back in 1974. Christine had a very dramatic personal life, and she had a lot of issues, psychological issues. And she was working as an anchor at WXLT. Now, she spoke of suicide several times. In fact, just a couple of weeks before she actually did it on air, on live TV, she mentioned to a colleague, wouldn't it be interesting for someone to commit suicide on air? That would really shake things up. And she said it often to people, and people just because she said it jokingly, like, oh, wouldn't that be something? And she'd laugh. So people didn't really take her seriously until this day when it actually happened. Behind me now is the last home of Christine Chubbuck. Christine lived here with her mother and two brothers, and it would have been that morning that Christine left this house for the very last time. Now, Christine Chubbuck was born in Hudson, Ohio. She grew up a little neurotic, and she liked to date, but she didn't get a chance to date very often. She actually started a little club in high school called the Dateless Wonder Club for the girls who didn't have dates on Saturday nights. She eventually got a degree in broadcasting, got various jobs in Ohio and around Florida, and ultimately ended up as an anchor at WXLT in Sarasota. Now, Christine had a history of depression, and she desperately wanted a relationship, and she wanted motherhood, and but she, that wasn't going to happen. She ended up having an operation. She lost one of her ovaries, and it was very unlikely that she would ever become pregnant. And there was a point where she did try suicide at one point by taking an overdose. So she was, had a history of depression. Behind me, we're in Sarasota right now, proper, and behind me is the former location of the WXLT television station. It was here, it opened here, I believe, in 1971, and this is where they were filming the TV show Suncoast Digest that Christine Chubbuck was actually hosting. Christine Chubbuck specifically, very specifically, told the producers she wanted that segment of her show recorded on videotape, memorialized on videotape, and she was in a good mood that day, or so she seemed, although now we know in retrospect that she had suicidal thoughts earlier in the day, and she actually purchased that gun a week prior to all of this. So this was the morning of July 15th, 1974, and the actual incident took place at 9:38 a.m., and she was recording this episode, and they had a couple of really dramatic, quite horrific stories that she had reported. And then, as I said, at 9:38, with a smile on her face, she began this statement. In keeping with the WXLT practice of presenting the most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first, in living color and exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide. And with that, she drew out the .38 and shot herself behind the right ear. She fell forward and eventually slumped to the bottom onto the floor. And the production man, the guy that was the producer on the show, went immediately faded to black. Now, the police station got several calls that day from people that morning thinking, is this a joke? What the hell's going on here? And everyone in the station was just as shocked as anyone else was that it happened. And it did. It was on air. And this is going to be a report that one of the officers, there are several reports, but this is an eyewitness report of someone who responded. On 7/15/1974, I received a call that a possible suicide had taken place at WXLT TV. On arrival, I met with South Trail Rescue, who were attempting to move the victim without inducing further damage to her head. I then stopped everyone from entering the building and crime scene until Detective Palmer arrived and took charge. I then talked with witnesses who informed us what happened. I observed the victim lying on the right side of her body with her feet facing north and her head south. There was blood on the right side of her head and face, which indicated a wound to the head. For further details, see Detective Palmer. I proceeded to the hospital where Dr. Wallace reported she was in very serious condition. Now, in reference to my arrival, he says, as I entered the building, South Trail Fire Department Rescue stated they had to move all of the tables, chairs, and other articles on the crime scene in order to remove the victim. Also, the .38 pistol with one spent cartridge had been removed and thrown on a table. I then had Deputy Barry take charge of the weapon after the victim was removed. We protected what was left of the crime scene. So Christine Chubbuck was actually taken from here to Sarasota Memorial Hospital, and she never regained consciousness. She was there and for 14 hours until she passed away from her injuries. Now, I don't know what this is anymore. You can see there's an antenna on the side of it when they broadcast from here, but I actually don't know what it is anymore. It seems to be empty. But this is the old former WXLT where the Christine Chubbuck suicide occurred. The story's crazy because I remember reading about it. This is before the internet. I had a magazine called Answer Me, and it had a short little story about Christine Chubbuck being on air and doing this. I'm like, no, that's not real. That cannot possibly be real. And I thought for years and years that it was just an urban myth. Somebody made this story up. And then when the internet became a thing, that became an obsession, was to find that videotape because there was a copy made. The law enforcement took a copy of it and they allowed the TV station to keep one copy of it. And according to what I understand, according to most published sources, that the one that is at the police station or the TV station was put away by the family, and they swore they'd never broadcast it. But there was a documentary recently. They recreated it. I mean, the effects on the video were spectacular. I mean, you would swear.
She's listening.
She is. You would swear that it's the real deal with the way it was wavy and the sound and audio, and several people just swear it's the real thing. I don't think the real thing has ever been leaked, but even the phony stuff is amazing to listen to. It's so dramatic and so horrible. She made an impression. The extreme always makes an impression, as Christian Slater said, and she certainly went out with one.
Amazing to see the building still here after all these years.
This is the beach that's closest to Christine Chubbuck's house, and her memorial service was held on the beach in front of the Gulf of Mexico. After Christine ended her life, she was cremated, and her family had a memorial service here on the beach. About 120 people attended her memorial service. Minister Thomas Beeson delivered the eulogy, and I'll read it. We suffer at our sense of loss. We are frightened by her rage. We are guilty in the face of her rejection. We are hurt by her choice of isolation, and we are confused by her message. After the service, her family had her cremains scattered here in the Gulf of Mexico. After the incident, WXLT replaced the show that Christine was hosting, Suncoast Digest, with reruns of Gentle Ben. Thank you very much for watching my video. I want to thank the people who are sponsoring this page by Patreon or PayPal, including Beverly Orlando Stuchel, Dirt Digger, Deborah Larkin, Paul Staples, Angie Pike. And I want to thank a couple of people. Back in 2005, I saved the emails, 2005, James Hargis and Linda in 2004, we were corresponding about this Christine Chubbuck incident way back then, and I saved the emails because they sent me articles, etc., and they dispelled, the fact that I thought it was an urban myth, and they convinced me that it wasn't. And here we are, 19, 18, whatever it is, years later, and I covered the story. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your attention. Please like, please subscribe, because it means a lot. Please sit through an ad, because that means a lot more. And until next time. You heard me.